So I have everything oiled up here and cleaned up. I honed up the, or not honed, I just polished the guides for the lifters up a little bit, and they turned out great. No damage done to those at all. Yeah, everything looks fine. This pipe managed to hold up well, so I'm going to use this again. Yeah, I think we're gonna flip it over to the other side and put the crank in. So it's crankshaft time, and it looks good overall. I think you have some surface rust here, but we're gonna clean that up, polish it up, no problem at all. But in the rear here, you have your rope seal. The old rope seal had probably some water in it, and this has been standing since, I don't know, many years. So it has been some rust here. So we're gonna sand this down a little bit and polish it up and see how it looks. I'm really happy with how the engine block turned out, but I put many hours into this. But now it's clean. I soaked everything up in WD-40, and now we can install our main bearings. I think I will lube the cam bearings as well before I put the crank in, because it's a little bit tight to reach all the bearings later. And now I want to take this excess sticking out, gently push it down. Like that. So we have a flat surface here. So we don't have to squeeze this with our bearing cap later. So here we have the first reused, cleaned up main bearing coming in. I'm using a very thick oil. I think it's straight 50 to lube the mains here. I like oil better than grease on the mains. And the rods as well. The grease on the rope seal, oil on the other ones. That's up to you, but I like it this way. So I'm measuring the side to side play on the crank here, so I knocked it over this way. So now I can, give or take, get a quite good measuring result here. And this is a little bit tight, and this is 0.2 millimeters or 0.008 inches. So I bought male piston rings. I think male is a really good brand. I've been using this before with good results, so I will do that again. Oops. So here we have the oil rings, oil scrapers, and the compression rings. And the top one and the second one is just the same on these old engines. So we're going to do some measuring at the ring gap in the cylinder bore. So there you can see a little dot, and that indicates that this side is the top of the piston ring. So we're going to mount it this way when we are measuring the ring gap as well. So the ring gap on these engines should have between 0.13 millimeters and 0.35. Here I have 0.3, and that passes through, but not very easy. So I think we have just over 0.3. So I think that's pretty okay. We can try with 0.4 as well. 0.4 don't fit in there. So I think we have around like 0.32 or something like that. I'm very happy with this. Gonna check the second compression ring in this cylinder as well. Second compression ring, cylinder 1, and this seems to be exactly the same as the last one. Just over 0.3, so it's a little bit on the higher side, but it is within the specs, so I'm very happy with this. So here we have one of the oil rings, and that looks to be like exactly the same. So for the play here and the piston ring groove, we have this about 0.01 millimeters, and this passes through about perfect. So that will be really good. So all the pistons are nice and clean. This is not carbon, just some shifting in the color here. This is the piston 1. New rings, oiled up everything. So I'm gonna set the rings to about there and just put it in like that. So now it's time to set the play on the bearing here. So Chevrolet says that you're supposed to use the snap method, and you can hear that the bearing snaps when you push it sideways, and it should. So we're just going to remove shims here until it gets too tight, so you can't move it side to side, and then put one shim on each side back, and then you should be free. And then Chevrolet says that you have a good bearing play, but we're going to double check that with plastic gauge as well. So yeah, let's begin. So right now there are no shims at all here, so I'm going to put 2 shims on each side here and check the play. And as you can hear, we have the snap, so it ain't too tight yet. So remove it. I think we will remove it and fit some plastic gauge and just control the bearing play right away. So I'm just going to use a very small amount of grease just to hold the plastic gauge while I'm putting the cap on. And here we have the plastic gauge strips. Just gonna break it off about there. Try to put it on straight here. I'm going to put this back together. Also important to torque it to spec. With everything mounted as it should. And then take it apart again. You cannot spin the engine over while the plastic gauge are in, then the results will be bad. So just tighten it and undo everything again. So here we can see the result. We have about 0.063 millimeters, and which should be 0.08 to 0.033. So this is a little bit too big of a play here. We actually want it to be between those two. So we have to remove a shim and try again. So now I think we have a quite good result here, because the plastic gauge are a little bit wider than the 0.038, and we want to be at maximum 0.033. So I think that will be very good. So the plastic gauge is like a pretty soft wax, and I like to just peel it off with my nail and then clean the surface up. Don't want to use any sharp metal objects on the crank. There we go. Now we can mount everything back together here. And there we have it. Now I'm just gonna go and do the same thing to all the other pistons and bearings. Last piston going in. So it seems that I have lost some footage, and that is the footage of me measuring the piston slab, the plate between the piston and the bore. And this engine should have maximum 0.073. That's what it says in my manual. So we're gonna measure it again with the feeler gauge here. Did the same thing with the piston loose before. But if I push the piston skirt away here, I can fit this 0.05 feeler gauge. It is tight, but I can work it in. This is not the correct way to measure this, but it will do. This is not too much play anyway. So front main bearing, we have exactly 0.050. Very good. Second main bearing, we also have 0.05. Very nice. Exactly 0.050 there as well. Very good. So here we actually have a little less play than on the other ones. The other ones we had 0.050, and this one we have, I think, exactly 0.038. So we're going to put one shim back. That should take us to around 0.050. We are very close to 0.050 on this one now as well, so I'm very happy with this. And put it together and torque it down. So we're gonna mount this front plate now. In front side here you can see there are a little bit of rust, but no loose rust, and this plate is so thick that it won't matter. Here you have the oil channel or a sprout for the lubrication of the cam drive. You can see on the back side. This is very important. This is clean. There is just a little small, like 2mm hole there, but now it's all clean and good. We're gonna take some gasket glue here. timing gear on the crankshaft, made of steel, thought it was good. Cleaned it up a little and it ain't good. Lots of rust, deep rust. Can't use this. But I think the 235 has the same gear. And I happen to know where we have a 235. In there. I didn't really plan this very good. I think the engine is ready to be lifted out. I have loosened all engine mounts. The gearbox is loose. I have a strap here, so it should be easy to lift out. I think shouldn't be stuck anywhere. All the fuel lines, electrical lines, radiator is out. So yeah. Oops. Well, it's loose. So we have the camshaft here. I want to remove the gear, timing gear here, because I have a new one. This going to break like 100%, but that doesn't matter. I want it off the camshaft so we can put a new one on. So I'm leaving 0.1 millimeters here for end play in the camshaft between the gear and the thrust plate. That is 0.004 inches. I think that's within the specs. I think the least is 0.03 inches. So this is 1 thou over. That should be all good. You can hear that there are a little play here between the gears, but I can't fit this in, and this is 0.1 millimeters, so that's very good. Looks like it's not pressed in all the way, but it is. It's all the way to the bottom there. There is a special tool to use here to get the cover aligned with the crankshaft for the seal right there. But I'm gonna eyeball this, I usually do, and it has always turned out great so far, so I'm gonna do that again. All the parts are clean for the oil pump and everything looks to be in very good condition. Here you can see the oil relief valve right there, and that is working just as it should. Run smooth. So we're gonna mount everything back together again. So here we have 0.10 millimeters, and this doesn't really go through the play between the teeth. 0.10 millimeters as well, maybe a little more, 0.11, something like that. It's gonna work just fine. This pump is a high volume pump, not a high pressure pump. These engines use a very low oil pressure. So this will be absolutely perfect. So now it's about time to put the oil pan on. But I want to explain for those who don't know how the oil system works on a old stove bolt. And of course you have the oil pump, which sucks oil, push the oil through this tube, and here is your regulating oil valve. And you have 3 outlets for this. The small line here pushes oil up to the rocker assembly in the cylinder head, and you also have channels inside the block going to the main bearings and the camshaft. And also you have a channel right there, and that's very important because this tube here fits into this tube in the oil pan and goes through here to this oil pipe or oil distributor pipe here to those small ones right there, as you can see. And those have a slight angle to them, and those should inject oil, squirt oil directly into these small scoops here in the big end of the rod. You have one of these in every one, and that is very important that those align very well. And if you remove this, Chevrolet has a original tool to help you guide them to the right place again. You could also put like Play-Doh on the ends here, put the pan on, turn the engine over, and you can see where they align. But I ain't gonna do that because I haven't removed them. So they are still in exactly the same place that they was before. I have cleaned this up. I'm gonna clean it a little bit more later before I put it on. But anyway, this should be good because all the bearings look very, very nice when I tear the engine down. So I'm very confident that the injector pipes here are in the right place. So I'm very happy with this. I'm gonna clean it up a little, clean the tubes. Also, I have pressure washed this now. So it is extremely much cleaner now than it was before. This was, I think, the dirtiest oil pan I have ever seen. But now it looks quite good. A little cleaning and that will be all right. And we will put the pan on, turn the engine over. One thing that I really don't like about engines that other people has been working on is when you can see silicone everywhere. These gaskets should seal the engine up, but I'm gonna use just a little bit there and just the same on that side. I'm gonna take just a little bit here. We're going to do like this. There, in the corners, nothing more. If you install these gaskets as they are supposed to be installed, this shouldn't be needed at all, but I like just a little bit to make the engine all sealed up. So we have a nice running no dripper when we are done with this. So the oil pan is on, I flipped the engine over, but now it is cylinder head time, and I think this needs a lot of work. I took one exhaust valve out and there are much material missing here, too much, so we can't regrind this valve. You can see there, not good. But the seat looks all right. We're going to regrind the seats as well, but there are much material left, so that's going to be okay. But as you can see here, we have one exhaust valve that is all burned out. I can fit a screwdriver in there, so maybe that's why they stopped using the engine in the first place a long time ago. But the seat, or the little that I can see, actually looks very good, so I think we can regrind that seat and find us some new valves for it, and I think this will be okay. This intake valve actually didn't look that bad. We have no deep corrosion in it, so this one we could probably regrind and reuse. So the valves ain't looking too good. Here we have one intake valve. This one I think we can save. Has a lot of material left, some pitting there. Stem looks nice. We have some pitting up here as well, but this pitting we can just grind off, resurface. An exhaust valve, not much material left there. And this one, that is totally burnt out. So we have to find us some new valves. I'm gonna take a look at that later on, but we will regrind and fix as many of these as we can. So we will see how many we need to replace. But I don't own a real valve grinder, so I have to do this in my lathe. Works pretty good, done it a couple times before. Put the valve in your jaw. You can't have too much run out, then the valve surface won't be aligned with the stem. And then I just take one of those air grinders with a fine stone, just C-clamped it in right now, but it seems to be very tight. And then you just set the angle, right angle for your sealing surface on the valve, and just grind. Small steps, just so you get a nice surface, and usually it works very good. So let's try it out. All of the intake valves turn out good, nice surface, a lot of material left there, looking good. Exhaust valves, 2 of them are usable again, nice surface, a lot of material left, but the other 4 are just trash. So we're gonna find 4 more new exhaust valves, or new. I was thinking the 235 engine that I have over there is scrap, but it has the same valves, I think. Said so on the internet. Besides the plate down here should be like 1 or 1.5 millimeter bigger on the 235, otherwise should be the same valve. So we might take 4 of those out and turn down in the lathe to a smaller size down there and see if we can use them. So the exhaust valve from the 235 actually looks really good. Exactly the same size on the stem and everything. Only difference is it's a little bit bigger, like 1 millimeter. So we're gonna turn this down in the light, and also the seat angle on the 235 is 45 degrees, and on the old one you have 30. But this can be fixed in the light, so we're gonna turn it in the light and then grind them. So I think this will be really good. I think I will remove the other two as well, so we're going to use all 6 exhaust valves from the 235. All the valves are done. I think they turn out very good indeed. This is the old exhaust valves from the 235 that I'm going to use in my 216 now. Same size, but I turned them down just a little bit, and I had to change the sealing surface here from 45 degrees to 30 degrees, which a 216 will use. So I'm very happy about those, and the intake valves as well turned out great. This is the old ones that was in this 216 to begin with. But they turn out very good, so I'm very happy with this. And now I have cleaned the cylinder head a little bit here. Still have to clean the ports a little bit more here for the intake, but we're going to regrind the seats and create a lot of metal dust and stuff, so I'm going to clean that later on. So yeah, let's just begin. I have this old kit of seat grinding equipment, and I have used this before a couple of times, and it works great. Old Swedish kit, so I think we will be absolutely fine with this. And now I'm going to use this grinding head right here. This is exactly 30 degrees, and that is what our sealing surface on the seat should be. So we're going to make the sealing surface good to start with, then we're going to take other angles and make the sealing surface to be in the width that we want. So we take this, put it on, and then we're just gonna push this down and take the grinding steps here, like that. A little bit more. There we go. Now we have the 30 degree surface all good. So now I want to measure this and see how wide that is. So the sealing surface here for the exhaust valve is about 2.6 millimeters, but I want the exhaust to be around 2 millimeters here. The exhaust needs a little bit more surface than the intake valve. Intake valve I want to be around 1.6 millimeters, exhaust around 2. So we're gonna try to take another cut with another angle, see if we can make this a little bit thinner. So here we have 45 degrees. I'm gonna put this down and take just a small cut, and our sealing surface should be a little less. Yeah, it's a little hard to measure, but I'm getting a reading now at 1.99, and that is pretty much perfect what I'm looking for. So I think we're gonna put the valve in and grind the valve in, and then measure the sealing surface that we can see on the valve itself. So now we can see the grinding mark here on the valve, and we have about 1 millimeter there, and the grinding mark is, I would say, yeah, a little bit over to like 2.2 millimeters or so. And another thing that I always do when I grind valves in the head is that when you're happy with your grinding, clean your valve and your seat, take a marker like this make some lines all the way around the valve, like this. Then you put your valve in, and do not spin the valve all the way around, just turn it a little bit back and forth a couple of times. And now when we look at this, you should see that it has been tearing all the way around here on those marks. And I think it has. Maybe a little bit more there and a little bit less on that one. Yeah, we have to grind this just a little bit more. Yeah, now it's better. Sealing all the way around. So now I'm gonna clean this again, and then this exhaust valve and this seat is perfectly sealed up. Now time for the intake valve for the number 1. Doing the same thing here. Put this in. Take this 30 degree to start with. I actually think that's enough. That seat wasn't that bad to start with. Making some lines here. Yeah, here we can see we have a very good sealing surface all the way around, I would say. Looks very nice. So now I just have to do the exact same thing on all the other valve seats and valves, so see you in a bit. So the valve springs for the 216 was really bad. This is one of the worst ones, and you can see there are some deep rust going on there, so we can't use them again. But I think we can use the ones from the 235 as well. So we're going to take those out and measure those, check the spring force, see if we can use them. Here we have an extreme low budget device for measuring spring force, but it actually works quite well. Just a digital scale, piece of wood to spread out the force. Then we have the spring and a 1.5 inch piece of wood here, because when you push the spring down to 1.5 inch, the length of it, that should hold around 140 pounds, which is about 63.5 kilos of force. So I'm going to push the spring down with a piece of wood to the exact height of this piece of wood here, and we should get a fairly good result, I think. So first we're going to try the original 216 spring. About 57, 58 kilos. Then the 235 spring. There we have about 65, 66 kilos. So I have mounted all the valves and the cylinder head here, except for number 6. And I have been using the 235 springs because they are exactly the same length, width and thickness of the material used in the spring. And those held around 66 kilos in average, and a 216 should have 63.5 kilos. So that's just 2-3 kilos more than it should have, so I'm very confident that this will work just fine. So here we have the last 2 valve springs and all pieces to put this together, so let's put those in. So now it's time to put the lifters in. And the bottom cleaned up well, and the sides as well, we're happy with that. Here you can see like 3 millimeters of deep rust right there between my fingers. But that's just the piece sticking up over the surface here, so that won't matter. Top cleanup good, so I think these lifters will work just fine. I think that's better for the camshaft as well, to use the old lifters in the same place. They are already worn in as they should, so I think this will be just fine. So I have the rocker assembly here, and this is the one for the 216, and it looks really bad, I think. But I'm going to tear all of this down and see if we can make anything out of this. I did remove one arm and clean up, just wire brushed it. I actually took the adjusting nut from the 235 and it turned out actually pretty well. That's the one seen right there. So I'm going to tear all of this down and we will go from there. So I cleaned up some stuff here, and here we have the rocker assembly. Here are one of the rockers, the original one from the 216, and it turned out great, not much wear at all. Cleaned up the oil groove, polished the surface up a little bit here. Wasn't much wear at all, just a little bit of surface rust. But we can see here we have the shafts. This is from the 235 and this is from the 216. I was thinking that I could use the one from the 235, but here we have very much wear. Doesn't look good at all, and you can hear it, I think. My nail stuck on the edges there, so we can't use this one. The 216 one doesn't have really any wear at all. It has a little bit of surface rust, a little bit of deep rust as well, but the deep rust is only where the springs are, so that won't matter at all. And I cleaned it up a little bit on the inside as well. That's important because the oil travels inside this tube. So I'm happy with this. I'm going to use this. I'm going to clean it up a little bit more, and this will be just perfect. Turned out better than I thought. So here we have one of the original push rods for the 216 engine. You can see here there are a little bit of deep rust on this one. Many of the other ones had deep rust as well. But I'm very confident that this will work just fine. And if we bend a push rod, nothing will happen with this engine except misfiring. And we have to put a new one in instead. So I'm gonna mount these, and I think it won't be a problem at all. So I ended up actually swapping this pipe out, goes through the water jackets, and if that leaks on this side, the water runs down in the engine oil, and I don't want that. So I swapped it out, nice new. So I think we're going to mount the cover here. This is the intake from the 235, which isn't a original intake for a 265, it is a 216, so I'm going to use it because it's clean inside and everything's good, so it's better to go with this, I think. It's time to fill her up with some oil, and then we're going to prime the oil system as well. Always feels good knowing the oil system works before starting the engine. Seems that we actually have a leak right there. I think this steel pipe is corroded enough, so we have a hole right there. I will see if I can remove this again and solder a new pipe in place. So I had to take the whole rocker assembly apart again, but now we have a soldered copper pipe instead of a steel one, so this should last probably forever. And it's looking good. I have tried the oil priming again, and everything looks to be sealed up and just perfect. So here we have the original distributor for the engine. I cleaned it up inside and out, oiled everything up, new grease in the cup, vacuum tested the ignition advanced here, and there are no play in it whatsoever. It feels really fresh, and also the rotor feels very good. It's an original Delco, so I'm going to use this again. I think I will order a new condenser for it, but this can be here for now. And also the cap actually looks like it is brand new. Also a original Delco, so I'm going to use that again. And the wires as well, they are old, but they are quite soft, and these are just copper cables, so there are nothing that really could go wrong with them. So I'm going to use these. And there is a little trick to get this to engage in the oil pump. You have to align just with your eyes so you can see the oil pump groove in there, and this should align, and you have not straight teeth on the gear here, so that's gonna turn while you're pushing it down. So I want that to be like there, and then we're going to try. Yeah, fits perfectly first time, because if we lift it up, turn this around, now it should not engage in the oil pump. You see there, we have like centimeter under there, can't be pushed down, and I can't spin this either. You can actually mount it like this and run the engine without the oil pump spinning, and we don't want that. I'm going to mount it there again, and we are down all the way. We will fine-tune the ignition later on. And I did put some new cork gasket in the cap as well. So I removed the plate on the back side of the water pump here, and the wheel looks fine. The bearing sounds very nice, and also you can see here, if I'm poking it just a little bit, you can see that the graphite ring wants it to bounce back a little. So the sealing ring is probably okay in this one, so we can probably use this. I have cleaned up the starter a little bit here. This is the original one from the 216, and if we open up here we can see is that there really isn't anywhere to talk about at all. This must have been restored at some point. The brushes still has long life left in them, so I'm just gonna mount this together again and put it on the engine. I think we're going to install the flywheel now, and on these 216s you have to do that from the underside. So we have to turn the engine over, and I think we have space enough to put the flywheel in over here. So let's try. So the time has finally come to make a first test start of the engine. I have everything hooked up. It's hooked up to the gearbox and everything. Fuel, power to the coil, the starter. The electrical system is really bad. You can see here, original cables, missing a lot of the insulation. Same thing on the whole truck. So I'm going to swap the electrical out. I have bought these extremely expensive wiring here. These fabric woven cables. A couple of different colors. That's going to be nice. I want the car to look extremely authentic. And all of you guys that's mad at me for not painting the engine, I want to keep the truck as original as I can, and if I were to paint the engine, yeah, the engine probably would look nice, but it doesn't really fit to the rest of the car. So I have tried my best to make this engine look nice and as original as it can, and I think it does. Looks like no one has been in here for, yeah, since the car was made, so I'm very happy with the result of the engine. And on the inside, I think it is extremely clean and nice. Engine should run like a dream. I have the exhaust hooked up, but that's just snapped, rusted off, like behind the cab there. So it's probably going to be a bit loud, but anyway, oil lines, everything. I took the carb apart and cleaned it up a little. Actually, it wasn't really that bad, but that should be all right. Old fan belt. I have a new fan belt here as well, ordered one. So, but that is not that bad, so I think it will survive a test start at least. Don't have any water in it, but we ain't going to run it more like 1 minute or so, so I think that will be alright. So yeah, let's get to it. I think I will turn it around without the ignition first, see if the fuel pump pumps any fuel up to the carb. And I already checked it for spark, and we have spark, and I set the ignition to, yeah, somewhere all right, I think. So it looks like the fuel is red, and I think the previous owner just poured in some 2-stroke oil, maybe to get rid of the knocking from the old engine. But I don't think 2-stroke oil helps for absolute mayhem rod bearings, but yeah, worth a try maybe. So if we have the ignition set to somewhere about right, this should fire pretty much straight up. A little bit of juice straight in the car. A little bit of gas. Well, that was close. I don't think the fuel pump has pushed the fuel up to the carb yet, so maybe that's why. Try once more. Put that there. So now it's the middle of June and it's a very warm but windy day. But the car is all done, has been for like 2 months. I have been driving it practically to everywhere I go, so it works absolutely fantastic. The engine runs so well. I have changed oil, I think 3 times, and I have set the valves 2 times, just to be sure, but it hasn't changed very much at all. And the engine is running extremely quiet, I think, for a 216, so I'm very happy with that. Always starts, the generator always works. Hasn't been a single problem to anything actually. So I'm very happy about that. I have been driving it for, calculated this, 447 miles. That's about 70 Swedish miles, or 700 kilometers. And it hasn't had a single problem. Just works. Jump in, start and go. We're going to take it for a little test drive right now. The motorcycle is a Swedish Monarch 98 cubic from also from 1939, just as it's called. So the interior was already quite good. I have changed the front windows and that side window there. All the electric works. You can start up the engine as well. So now it's cold. You can see it hasn't been started since yesterday. I use it pretty much every day, so a little throttle, ignition on, some choke, and off we go. It's extremely dirty. I don't know on camera how the engine sounds, but in real life it is extremely quiet. Can't barely hear if it's running or not. I bought a quite good muffler as well, so the exhaust sound is very low also. Radiator is all sealed up, doesn't leak a drop. You can see the timing advantage working. Now this oil that's in it has been in here for like 350 miles. And you can see how clear that is. So about the oil pressure, this is idling with a very warm engine. It's a hot day today. The engine oil is really hot. I'm using 5W30 oil, mineral oil, and this has been working just fine. This is idling. When I'm in highway speeds, if I throttle up a little bit, it usually goes up to about 15 or so, a bit over. So for a 216 that is absolutely fine. They say that needle also can go all the way down to 0 without damaging the engine at idle, but I don't know what this is, like 7-8 psi at idle maybe, with a extremely hot engine. So I'm happy with that, just fine. Also, all the electrical, low, high. I don't know if you can hear the fan working, but the heat is really good, and the heater core is all sealed up, working well down there. And another tricky part about this truck was to get the radio working, but now it seems to work just fine. And as always, if you want to help me out, subscribe to the channel and please share this and leave a comment down below and I will answer as fast as I can. Until next time, have a great one. I'm Richard, Yesterday's Machinery. Goodbye. Give me Texas.